The film begins with a young man named Nate, who is a very cheerful guy, loved by everyone, and known for being reckless and loving adventures. Nate is with his family and friends at their house in the woods, celebrating Independence Day together. Nate goes to spend the day on the beach with his sister Katie and the rest of their friends, and they are having a great time. However, when Nate gets out of the water, he starts feeling strange sensations in his body and a terrible headache. When he returns home, he tells his mother Claire that he feels very sick, so she asks him to go take an aspirin and that he will be fine. After that, the whole family sits down for lunch in the garden. But suddenly it starts to rain, so everyone grabs their plate and goes inside. At that moment, Nate is back in the bathroom and begins to have strange convulsions. His little sister Annabelle sees him and screams loudly for her mother, telling her to hurry to Nate. As soon as Claire sees her son in that state, she rushes to him, holds him in her arms, and tells him to breathe slowly and not to be afraid of anything, assuring him he will be okay. She asks Kit to get the car ready quickly so they can take Nate to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, Claire is shocked when the doctor tells her that Nate has a brain tumor and needs further tests to be sure. But Claire refuses to continue her son's treatment at that hospital and asks the reception to arrange a helicopter to transfer Nate to a hospital in Nashville. Indeed, the hospital prepares the helicopter and takes Nate there. We see all his family terrified for him, not understanding what is happening. Nate's father, Dan, arrives after learning his son is in critical condition. Dan watches his son through the glass and sees him convulse painfully. The doctor then tells them that Nate is suffering from encephalitis, resulting from germs that entered his body while he was swimming in the sea, and this disease is what caused the convulsions. The current treatment plan is to try to reduce the swelling as much as possible, maintain his blood pressure at a normal level, and monitor his condition for 48 hours to see if there is any improvement. Claire asks the doctor if her son will be okay. The second doctor tells her that her son's condition is very critical. He could die at any moment, and if he lives, there is a high probability he will suffer a mental disability and lose the ability to speak and hear. Naturally, when Nate's family hears this, they freeze in shock, unable to believe that Nate, the cheerful and adventurous young man, has had his life destroyed in an instant. Afterwards, Dan sits alone with Claire and tells her they need to consider the worst case scenarios for their son so they won't be shocked later. Claire tells him she can't even imagine that. Dan finds her extremely tense, so he softens his words, apologizes, and tells her that a miracle could happen and their son could return to normal after 2 days. He reminds her of Nate's mischief as a child, what a beautiful boy he was, and how he loved to live new experiences. Claire stops crying and tells her husband she is very scared. Her husband stays by her side to comfort her. 4 years pass, and we find out that Nate has unfortunately developed quadriplegia and is now permanently confined to a wheelchair. Nate constantly remembers his old memories of when he could walk and move, and he is very sad about his situation because he can no longer do the things he used to love. He now needs special care all the time, as he can't even use the bathroom by himself. One day, Nate uses the remote on his wheelchair and launches himself into the lake in front of his house. Claire quickly calls her husband to save their son. Dan rushes in and pulls Nate out of the water before he drowns, holding him in his arms until he finishes crying. Claire is very sad for her son and doesn't know how to help him, as he even refuses to leave the house, isolating himself all the time. He doesn't even see his old friends anymore. At this point, Claire gets an idea. She decides to get her son a pet to be his friend. The next day, she takes Nate to an animal center that assists people with disabilities so he can choose the animal he wants. This center has many animals trained to help people with disabilities. Nate is very excited because he loves animals. At the center, he sees a large number of people who have disabilities like his, each choosing their own animal. There, Nate's attention is caught by a monkey named Gigi. The center owner tells Nate that they found Gigi in a traveling circus where she was treated very badly, which is why Gigi is afraid to interact with humans. Nate promises Gigi that he will treat her wonderfully. Claire is overjoyed because this is the first time in months she has seen her son smile. Nate arrives home with Gigi, gives her a tour of his room, and shows her the cage she will live in. The next day, a nurse arrives to help Nate take a shower. The nurse starts to undress him, and Nate screams in pain because even the slightest movement hurts his body. After that, Nate starts drawing with his mouth because he can no longer use his hands properly. The next day, a physical therapist arrives to help Nate use his hands, as he can still move them slightly. However, Nate is in a lot of pain and doesn't want to continue the session. The therapist explains that the pain is a good sign because it means his nerves are still working, and there is a big chance his condition will improve. Nate is sad that Gigi still hasn't warmed up to him and spends all her time in her cage, afraid to interact with him. At night, Claire enters her son's room while he is asleep and turns him to the other side. After Claire leaves, Nate opens his eyes and tells Gigi that he wasn't actually asleep. because he hasn't been able to sleep since what happened to him. He just pretends to sleep so he doesn't worry his mother more than she already is. The next day, Katie arrives to visit as she now lives alone in another apartment. When she finds out they got a monkey for Nate, she gets very upset because she believes monkeys don't belong in a house, but in the wild. Nate tells her she has no right to decide because she doesn't even live with them anymore. Katie gets close to the monkey, and suddenly the monkey gets agitated and throws food at her. Everyone laughs at her because they had warned her not to get close. At that same moment, their dog attacks Gigi, and the two of them chase each other, breaking everything in the apartment. When Dan comes home, he asks what happened, and they tell him Gigi and the dog were fighting. Dan is annoyed and tells his wife that getting a monkey for their son was a bad idea. His wife tells him he is supposed to support her decision because the monkey is what brought the smile back to their son's face. Dan tells her he also has the right to come home after work to relax, and he can't find any peace living in a zoo. His wife tells him to go rest since he doesn't help her with anything anyway, not even waking up in the morning to check on their son and help her, while she takes care of him day and night. Claire leaves angrily. Nate overheard them arguing and starts to feel like a huge burden on his family. At night, Nate tells his mother that his father was right, and he agrees to get rid of the monkey. His mother tells him they were just having a normal argument, and his father didn't mean what he said. Nate tells her he is already too big of a burden on them and doesn't want to make things worse. Claire tells him he is her son, the person she loves most in the world, and he has never been a burden on her. Nate calms down and asks her to leave him alone because he wants to sleep. The next day, we see the physical therapist helping Nate try to hold a ball, but Nate tells him his hands hurt a lot and he can't move them well. At that moment, Gigi comes out of her cage, picks up the ball, and puts it in Nate's hand. Gigi keeps her hand on his to reassure him that she will be there for him. Nate is obviously overjoyed, that she is no longer afraid of him and that she loves him. Now, Nate holds Gigi and reads her a story. Gigi starts playing with the whole family, and we see that all the family members have grown to love her. Also, Grandma manages to train the dog so that he doesn't bother Gigi anymore. Gigi starts helping Nate with his physical therapy sessions, putting the ball on the table and moving it away from him to force him to move his hand and grab it. The physical therapist is amazed by what is happening because the monkey is incredibly smart. After some time, Nate goes to the hospital after his hands have improved significantly, and he can now use them normally, though not quite like before. The doctors are amazed by his progress and ask who helped him. Nate tells them that Gigi had a huge impact on his recovery. All the doctors applaud him, and Gigi, on Nate's birthday, his father gives him a new phone since he hasn't used one in 4 years. Nate takes many pictures with Gigi and posts them on Instagram. One day, Nate goes to the supermarket with his mother and Gigi. There, he meets a girl named Lori, whom he had met 4 years ago on his last vacation with his family. Lori is very sad to see his condition, and she says goodbye and leaves to finish her work. Nate then encounters a rude woman named Chloe, who tells him that monkeys are not allowed in the supermarket. Claire tells her that Gigi is a service animal and is there to help her son overcome his crisis. Chloe replies that monkeys are fierce animals that transmit diseases quickly and asks her to take her son and leave the supermarket. Claire is annoyed and takes her son home. Soon after, a police officer arrives and tells them that Chloe filed a complaint against them. He explains that Chloe is the head of an animal protection organization and asks them to be careful from now on and not to take the monkey into enclosed places or the airport because Chloe is a difficult woman who loves to cause trouble. The next day, Claire asks the grandmother to watch Nate because he is determined to stay up with her since they haven't spent time together in a while. Later, Lori sends Nate a message offering to hang out with him at a nightclub and bring Gigi along. When Nate is sure his grandmother is asleep, he sneaks out of the house with Gigi. When they arrive at the nightclub, everyone is amazed by Gigi, and they all take pictures with her and post them on Instagram. Lori tells Nate she is very happy he is there with them. When the grandmother wakes up, she calls Katie and tells her that her brother has run away from home, asking her to find him quickly before his parents find out. Katie discovers that her brother is at the nightclub from the pictures of Gigi posted on Instagram, so she rushes over. She finds her brother drunk and getting close to Lori. Katie takes Nate and Gigi out of the club and starts yelling at him because he went out alone. She reminds him that his condition is critical and he could have gotten injured or fallen from his chair, and no one would have been able to help him. Sad, Nate tells her he just wanted to have a good day like in the old days. Katie takes him to a restaurant, gets him food, and feeds him herself. She confesses to him that she got a job outside the city, but she doesn't want to leave him alone because she would feel guilty being far away from him. Nate tells her he would be happy to see her fulfilling herself. The next day, they are shocked to find videos circulating online of someone giving Gigi alcohol, and Nate becomes the #1 trend in America. When Claire finds out, she yells at her son. Katie tells her that Nate didn't do anything wrong and that he had the right to have a nice day out like everyone his age does. The problem escalates when Chloe shows up at their house with people from an animal rights organization staging protests because they believe Nate's family is mistreating Gigi. Claire goes out to them and tells them what they are doing is illegal, and she starts recording them to send the video to the police. At that moment, they start throwing paint at their house, so Grandma gets a water hose and sprays them to make them leave. Chloe files a lawsuit against them, and the hearing is set for 2 days later. 2 days later, Nate attends the hearing with Chloe. Chloe tells the judge that Gigi is from a species of monkeys known for being highly intelligent and social, and that humans shouldn't take baby monkeys from their mothers because it deprives them of natural development in their environment. Not to mention that monkeys transmit diseases quickly to humans. When it's Nate's turn to speak, he tells them he was paralyzed 6 weeks before he was supposed to start college, and his life was incredibly bleak for the past 4 years, so much so that he tried to hurt himself one day, but his father saved him. However, when Gigi came into his life, everything changed for the better. The monkey gave him a reason to wake up every day to play with her, take care of her, and try new things. She also helped him regain movement in his hands. He tells them that Gigi is not just a pet, she is a part of his family. And if having Gigi in his life is against the law, then there's a big problem with that law. The judge tells him that monkeys are known to have hurt many humans before, which is why the hearing is being held to protect the lives of city residents. Nate insists that Gigi is a service animal, meaning she was trained to help people. After the hearing, unfortunately, the court rules in favor of Chloe, meaning Gigi will be taken from Nate and returned to the center. Nate says goodbye to Gigi for the last time. Devastated and crying, days pass and we see Nate fall into another state of depression. His mental state even worse than before because they took away the only thing he was living for. Claire is extremely sad for her son and doesn't know how to help him. One day, Grandma gives Claire a paper stating that monkeys are allowed in North Carolina and it is legal for people to keep them as pets. She tells Claire not to give up and to fight until the very end to get Gigi back. A year later, we see them celebrating Independence Day in North Carolina after Dan bought the family a house there so they could all live together. Gigi is back with Nate, and he is of course very happy. Furthermore, Nate decides to continue his education and go to college. The film ends.